The following is my personal account of a recent interaction with two officers of the Nashua, New Hampshire Police Department and the events immediately leading up to this encounter. On the evening of January 9th, 2014, I received a message on my PlayStation 3 console from a person unknown to me. The message contained an image of a child in an indecent state, and I was troubled by it. I immediately called the New Hampshire FBI office to report the matter. It was then 7:20 p.m. and the office was closed. The answering machine advised me to call the Boston, Massachusetts FBI office. At 7:21, I called the Boston FBI office, which was also closed. At 7:22, I called the Nashua Police Department and explained the situation, asking if an officer could be dispatched to my home. At 7:55, I received a call back from the Nashua Police Department. I was informed that the responding officer was tied up with other business, and I was asked if they could visit me later on in the evening. I responded that it would be fine. At approximately 8:35, two officers arrived at my home, Officers Joshua Trefry and Steve Hallam. When I opened the door, I shook their hands and thanked them for coming. I then advised both officers that, this being a report of such a sensitive nature, I would be recording their visit. I then invited the officers in, escorted them to my living room, and turned on the camera built into my smartphone as discussed. This is the conversation that immediately followed.
Have you been in trouble in the past?
I don't answer questions, sir. But you're coming into my home and somebody sent me something that's obviously done with illegal
Did you
intentions.
come here to create an argument? I mean, we're just conversating with you.
Right, and he asked me a question, I just said I don't want to answer. It's perfectly within my rights. Okay.
I cannot know the officers' thoughts. I can only speculate. But it seemed to me, in their minds, if someone films the police, they must be a criminal. And if they decline to answer any questions, they must be an argumentative criminal. So the question was, have you been in trouble in the past? I interpret this as legal trouble. Translation, are you a criminal? I see a couple of problems with the officer's question. Number one, that's just rude. I was a victim in this situation. I called the police and invited them to my home. I shook their hands and thanked them for their time. And within moments, they are insinuating that I must be a person of ill repute if I feel the desire to film their visit. I was willingly submitting to a search of my property and effects, and it was my desire to document the events as they unfolded as well as protect myself, plain and simple. Officer Trefry, your question was in poor taste. How might you feel if you invited me to your home, and the first question I ask of you is, have you ever dressed in women's clothing before? Which brings me to my next point. Number two, it's not pertinent and it's none of your business. That question had nothing at all to do with the investigation at hand. Your investigation was of a very specific nature. Any questions you may have about me, my job, my hobbies, or my past with law enforcement have no bearing on an investigation of this nature. Even if a person in a similar situation responded that they had been in trouble in the past, how would that help you do your job better and expedite an investigation of this nature? It wouldn't. So they've been in trouble before. That doesn't change the fact that there's someone else out there that you should be finding. It just makes you nosy. In response to Officer Trefry's question, I said, I don't answer questions. It wasn't exactly the response I meant to give, but I was a bit surprised by his rudeness. The answer I meant to convey is more like, this investigation is not of me, and that's exactly why I wish to record it, so we don't lose sight of the fact that I am a victim in this, not the perpetrator. I refuse to answer stupid questions with no bearing on this investigation. After my initial response, I then tried to remind the officers why they were there. I had invited them to my home to show them the illegal content someone had sent me with malicious intent. At this, Officer Hallam asked, "Did you come here to create an argument? I mean, we're just conversating with you." Ignoring the fact that conversating isn't a real word, I politely, despite his rudeness, responded that Officer Trefry had asked a question that I didn't want to answer and that I was perfectly within my rights to decline to answer.
Did you come here to create an argument? I mean, we're just conversating with you.
No, Officer Hallam. I invited you to come here, and I didn't do so to create an argument. I did it because I'm a law-abiding citizen with a conscience who, when he sees something he knows to be wrong, reports it in the hopes that it can be set right. I invited you because I'm a part of a community and I hate to see that community tarnished and no one answer for it. I invited you because I was trying to do the right thing, and you rewarded me with suspicion and arrogance. Wouldn't it be something if we could foster an atmosphere where concerned citizens can interact with the police productively without fear of chastisement or suspicion. It would be something. But it seems these officers are more concerned with making sure a citizen knows their place. I can see how an interaction with the police such as this could cause someone to have nothing further to do with the police. To try to do the right thing and come away from it feeling worse than you did before? Who needs that? Now, fortunately, I'm not so delicate that what the local police think of me is going to make or break me. I know I'm a decent man. I still offered them coffee before they left. This isn't about hurt feelings. It's about job performance and accountability. Sadly, law enforcement does not operate like a service industry where, if you dislike the attitude and performance of one department, you can give your tax dollars to another. But if it were run that way, I bet we'd see a drastic attitude adjustment in many of our officers. I respect the police. One of my good friends is a police officer in another state. I'm even considering a career in law enforcement. I don't hate law enforcement, nor do I extol them. I understand that some of them have a demanding and stressful job, and that there are those among them who are true civil servants and officers of the peace who try to do right by their communities, and that is a respectable endeavor. During the investigation, I was asked for my name and birth date. That much I did provide. In retrospect, I feel I should have declined to provide my birth date, as it was irrelevant to the investigation and provides the remaining information necessary for the officers to unreasonably investigate me. That's time that could be better spent, catching the bad guy? So they probably still got their wish to invade my privacy, even though my understanding is it's not strictly by the book to run a background check on someone who is not a suspect. But if they can type your name into a computer, it feels like some sort of petty victory for them. That'll teach them to use those First and Fifth Amendment rights. Despite the rocky start, I was able to file the report as intended. However, I do take issue with the attitude of the officers. I think the Nashua Police Department should better train their officers regarding being filmed in the course of their public duties, and maybe for this pair throw in some sensitivity training, lest they roll up on Granny and accuse her of shady dealings. They need to learn that filming does not a criminal make, and to insinuate that it does, or to suggest that someone is seeking an argument solely because they do not wish to answer questions, is insulting and rash. I should also note that I was open carrying in my home at the time of this visit. Whether open carrying or concealed carrying, I'm usually armed and always lawfully. The officers both eyed my pistol every few moments. It could be that they were cautious, nervous, or just firearms enthusiasts. I can't say for sure. But the only reference they made to my pistol was at the end of their visit, when Officer Trefry urged that I avoid the person responsible for the crime I was reporting because...
You don't want to put yourself in a situation where inadvertently you could create some legal issues for yourself, okay? Obviously you like to have your gun and you don't want a conviction for a felony.
And I appreciate your sincere concern, sir. It seems I had the trifecta that night: a camera, a brain, and a gun. A quick internet search will show how much some officers love that combination. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful and that you can take something away from it. Remember, know your rights and exercise them.